information useful because I'm sure most of you know our principals. The Speaker of the National Assembly is Ms. Baleka Mbete at the main table. And to her left, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Thandi Modise. And on the right-hand side of the Speaker is the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Ntate Lechisa Tsenodi. Yes, and we've just been joined by the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Ntate Rasere Titau. Also, accompanying the President is the Secretary to Parliament, Ntate Gengezi Mkidlana. Okay, thank you very much. So without wasting time, I'm going to invite the Speaker of the National Assembly to give us an overview of the message today with regard to Parliament's hosting the final State of the Nation address in the 20 years of democracy in 2 days' time. Speaker, over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and visitors to Parliament. And good morning, of course, to my own colleagues who are working in Parliament. It's not the first State of the Nation address, so we will take it for granted that a lot is known about the State of the Nation address, and that indeed, for the past couple of weeks, we've been engaging in the public domain, giving information, engaging about various aspects of the arrangements for the better understanding and information of the. So as usual, on the basis of a principle that had been started by Madiba 20 years ago, Parliament goes all out on this occasion to be as open and as welcoming, as inclusive as possible, in the sense that you have all three arms of the state, all the spheres of government, including SALGA, representing local government, would be sitting as part of the joint sitting. In other words, it's not just the two houses of Parliament, but it's also a conscious effort to bring other arms of the state on board. It is also public who we go all out through some mechanism administratively to make sure randomly members of the public are sourced in order for them to also have the opportunity to sit in the gallery and be part of this event, which comes only once a year. We have all the Chapter 9 institutions, we have the business sector, and professional body. In some instances, we rotate invitations, but we try to be as representative in how we invite the people to occupy the gallery as possible. For instance, the religious are represented, and so on and so forth. We also go all out to the provinces through the legislatures for them to help us to source people who then form part of the guard that would be outside, and the president and his people that are with him would be coming past, and he would interact with them. There would also be a junior guard of honor, 100 representatives of the guard of honor. And again, every year we try to rotate the representation from different provinces and different organizations. On the gallery, we have special guests of parliament, graduate students. There is also, as you know, every year, a different praise singer. And this time we will, for the first time, I believe, have a woman praise singer, which is part of our practice. Because culture, that's what normally happens. And this person who's coming tomorrow is Mrs. Kato Velmina Masimula from Mamushalela section, Hapala, Makudutamaha district in Limpopo. Mrs. Masimula is a well-known praise singer at weddings, funerals, parties, and other occasions in Makudutamaha district of Sekhukhune. Apparently, she was also invited to Qunu to be the praise singer of Mandla Mandela during the official handing over of the Mandela tribe from the late Tata Mandela to Mandla. And tomorrow will be in Sipedi. There are a whole range of details which I don't know, I think we might circulate the information if people are interested. They'll of course later on dinners at various venues. And in each venue, in each of the 4 venues, main venues, but there's an additional 5th venue that has been added because it has turned out that there's a need to accommodate a whole lot more people who had sought at least to have dinner with the head of state. So there's an additional marquee. Cast arranged as usual. I believe we are on a new broadcast system. I think Luzgo will be able to explain that. So those are the general arrangements for SONA, but as you know, as has happened over the years, there would then be the area of tightening of security arrangements from the airport. The roads get closed at a certain point, and from the routes that would be taken by the head of state and deputy head of state, there would be the usual arrangements, which is something that gets done on every State of the Nation address. I think in general, those are the arrangements. Of course, we've shared our frustrations at this time because we are never able to accommodate everyone who wants to come, especially when it comes to the gallery, because those gallery seats are obviously just too limited in terms of the amount of interest, the numbers of people that approach Parliament and ask if they could not be given a seat. So that's an ongoing matter of and frustration on our part because to be able to cater for more people. I think I'll end the general brief and hand over.
Thank you very much to the Speaker of the National Assembly. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. From the hosts themselves, it's all systems go. In 2 days' time, we're going to have the State of the Nation address. Now, we will open it to questions and comments. Okay. Before we do that, we'll just take the other presiding officers who might want to add to the message that the speaker shared with us.
Thank you very much, Ndate. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted the logistics in the city that the speaker refers to are of necessity discussed and worked on with the city, so that people who are at work and are on their general business around town necessarily inconvenience. They know in advance. These are usually publicized so that there is no undue disruptions to the conduct of their business. This is an important part of this because it happens once a year, and so it's crucial that at least residents and citizens around the city, they know they've almost always come to expect it. So the advance notice is always useful to say so that people do not forget the routes that creates inconvenience for them. This, so work with the city has been very crucial to arrive at the arrangements that have been made so far. I just wanted to add that, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, presiding officers. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we take questions, comments? If you can just put up your hand, we'll take them in batches of 5. Just identify yourself and the media house you're coming from, and you ask your question. Rahima, you're first up. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry. Rahima, followed by Paula Charles. Is there any other hand? Those are the 2 hands. Let's start with those, Rahima.
This is for the speaker. The president has said he will be guided should the EFF stand up and ask a question during his speech. I'm sure you've given it plenty of thought. What are you going to do should that happen, since it is a possibility? And second question, some political parties have said they will be boycotting the post-SONA cocktail dinner. Why continue to have such a dinner?
Paula Charles, E-News. Connected to the issue of possible disruptions by the EFF, there have also been complaints by political parties that the security has changed this year, got far more stricter. There's also been reports that police and parliament security have been trained in addition to what they usually are trained. Can you talk to those issues? Thanks.
Yes, Janet.
Thank you. Also to the speaker, it's Janet Hurd, Media 24. Just to elaborate on that, if we tried to get some clarity last security, and I don't know if it was just me, but I felt that we didn't get any detail, and I'm not sure if the speaker or perhaps the head of security could answer, but can we get categorically an answer on whether the public order policing unit is going to be on the premises or not? Or in other words, what special arrangements are being made, but specifically if you could answer on the public order policing. Thanks.
Is there a final question for this round? Okay, thank you very much. The presiding officers will deal with some of the questions assisted by the Secretary to Parliament.
Thank you. I'd like to respond to the question on security, whether there are, the direct question is whether public order police will be here. And the other question said, are we in fact training staff with the police? The POA brings together the executive authority of Parliament with representatives of parties. It discusses a whole lot of issues. It discussed in its last 2 meetings issues around the security arrangements around Parliament. It agreed that it will continue to read provisions of the powers and privileges, the rules, and the Constitution. In line with that discussion, we have looked at the protection services of Parliament. We are looking into, in the long term, at the service of Parliament. So yes, we are aware that there are speculations in the media about whether or not the parliamentary protection services are trained. It would really be blind of Parliament not to ensure that people in any section of Parliament, whether they are in finances or in security, are not from time to time a chance to whatever capacity that they need to carry out their responsibilities. But we are also aware that in the media there is speculation, and in fact we have been directly accused of procuring and acquiring bulletproof vests and some such nonsense. We have not. So clearly, preparations and the capacitation of Parliament's protection services is there. Is it geared, as the media is saying, towards protecting one man on the 12th of February? Categorically, we say no. You have also said to us that I cannot, where I'm sitting, say yes or no, the public police will be in Parliament. The Powers and Privileges Act does enable us, if the need arises, and where we are sitting with the Speaker and the presiding officers, all of us, we are hoping the need does not arise for us to use that provision of the powers and privileges. Therefore, we are hoping that we will call on any police to come to Parliament on the day of the State of the Nation address. Thank you.
The dinner, why continue the dinner? We incidentally just a formal letter from the Democratic Alliance telling us that this would constitute a wasteful expenditure, that they are going to try to mobilize other political parties to follow their suit. And we get that letter today, 2 days before the function. We would have liked to have had this information last year so that we don't include them in the numbers for purposes of preparation. They have in fact led to serious wasteful expenditure in Parliament. They must account for it. If we had our way, we would ask them to pay for every plate, 3 course or whatever courses the number is. They didn't let us know in advance. It's a very bad one. And we, because I think this is a, much as we are quite sensitive and obviously appreciative of the broader point they are making about the need to be sensitive to expenditure in the which we are doing, but you do not yourself contribute towards that. We think these are things that we are always mindful of. The reason that we have decided, firstly, to not go out and stay internally and use the internal resources. We have also explained that these events are not significant to come together in this way. Some of the people that we bring here will not be able to make their own independent arrangements as our invitees at that time of the night when the State of the Nation address takes place. So it is not very wise of them to have taken the decision they've done in the way they've done so. But quite frankly, what it means is that we are going to have that loss of people who ought to have participated in that thing. Advanced planning is absolutely important, and they knew about it. They have in the structures of parliament preparing for this, everything. They only tell us today that they are, by the way, we are cancelling our coming over there and so on, knowing what expenditure it has meant for parliament. Their complaint is not valid. That's the one I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Maybe just a quick follow-up on this whole issue of the dinner and the cancellations and the boycotts and so forth. We need to make the point that we take this issue very seriously because we find it to be quite opportunistic, and it's more of a political issue more than any other thing. We need to understand, like the Speaker said, we are hosting the President to present the State of the Nation to the South Africans. We have invited guests. In a normal course of events, as Africans, in the first place, if you invite people and host them, you would offer them something to eat or drink. It is only African to do that. And for this opportunistic argument now to be used to say that by offering people something to eat or drink as a host, as Africans, it is fruitless. We find it to be quite opportunistic. And like the this is an occasion for South Africans to look at themselves and be happy. And if they are not happy, then therefore an opportunity will then be created to raise then their unhappiness during the debate of the State of the Nation address. And therefore we take this thing very, very seriously. And like the Deputy Speaker said, probably the DA must then how they are going to pay back whatever that has been budgeted to hold and their guests. Thank you very much.
Speaker, I think especially because we have had to entertain a request for more accommodation of the guests. So it is taking us by surprise that you ask for us to bring more people as your guests, and then you turn around and you say, I'm no longer coming. There's one outstanding response to the question which was directed at the Speaker, which arises from the President's interaction with the media over the weekend, where he said he would be directed by the Speaker. SONA is a joint sitting. The President is indeed right. He will be directed by the Speaker and the National Chairperson of the Council of Provinces. They will not just be direct, strictly be following the rules, and we will confine ourselves to the rules. The rules of Parliament are informed by what we understand to be one convention, precedents, what is in the laws and what is in the Constitution. So I think the President can rest easy, South Africa can rest easy, be confining what is doable in the rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Presiding Officers. Second round of questions. It will be you, ma'am, and then Lulama, Paul Vecchiato, and then Paula for second helpings. Yes, please identify yourself and the media house you're coming from, and then question.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Terry. I'm a Member of Parliament, and as a Member of Parliament, I would like clarity.
I'm afraid, ma'am, this is a press briefing. I'm sure members of Parliament do get an opportunity to interact with the presiding officers. Can we just give first priority to the media, people who we invited here for the press briefing by the presiding officers to ask their questions? Can I, with due respect, ask you?
Okay.
I'm sure time can be made for members of
When?
Parliament to access in the same way that members of Parliament always access the presiding officers. Can we give priority to the media, people who invited here to interact with the presiding officers?
Absolutely. I
please?
think they were given preference. if I may just
No,
ask
The
and
press
get
briefing, ma'am.
clarity under which outlined by the presiding officer will public
Ma'am-
order
ma'am, with-
policing
with-
or other
with due
police be
respect.
called into
Ma'am,
parliament?
with due respect, please, I beg you. Let us give the media people the help. All right, Lulama, Paul, and then Paula Charles.
Lula Mamakia, SABC. Just a follow-up, Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP. You're saying that you will be guided by constitutions and the laws are saying, the side, ma'am. Yes. Can you just give us an insight as to what exactly the constitution or the laws that you will be guided by are saying? Secondly, the speaker has talked about their frustrations of limited seats when inviting guests for SONA. Just want to know how many guests will be sitting in the public gallery? And on your invitation, is it Parliament who is inviting, who is choosing who should represent business, labor, or religious organization? Or are you sending out invitations to those umbrella bodies so that they can choose who's coming?
Good morning, everyone. Either the National Assembly Speaker or the NCOP Speaker please give us a yes or no answer if elements of the public order policing will be stationed close to the National Assembly chamber on the day and on the parliamentary precinct. Thank you.
Paula Charles, ENCA. Just to be absolutely clear, and I'll ask this as a very pointed question, is there a rule that prevents a point of order or a question as the President delivers his State of the Nation address?
Okay, Gay Davis.
Gay Davis, Eyewitness News. Thanks. On that last point, the briefing by the secretaries to the National Assembly and to the National Council of Provinces made it clear that convention are regarded as hard and fast as rules. So my understanding is there is no rule that specifically prevents points of order or questions during the State of the Nation address. The convention is that there are none. Can you tell us whether this is what you're referring to when you say that you will be applying the rules as well as the conventions and traditions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No further questions for this penultimate round. Okay, Paula, can you just repeat your question, please?
It's very connected to Gay's question. Is there a rule preventing a point of order being raised by a member of Parliament or a question during the President's State of the Nation address?
Very much. The presiding officers will now respond to the questions.
The question from Ms. Lulama says, what are these provisions? What does the Constitution and the law says? The Constitution defines the powers. It also enables to go and deal with the matters of its internal arrangements. It therefore enables Parliament to come up with its own rules of procedures or whatever. It enables us to come out with legislation. We did inherit the Powers Privileges Act. It gives us the authority to act in particular ways. One of the most important committees of Parliament is the Rules Committees and the Joint Rules Committees. And those then form the instruments at the disposal of Parliament to run its own affairs. Parliament, like any other community or a representative of a communal authority, also carries a culture. And it does rely on precedents, what has happened before, convention, protocols. African Parliament just does what it has always done, what its other fellow parliaments do in the world. And that is why you cannot say that in South Africa we will not have a convention. This is not the way you can. Convention is not a law that we accept. But the rulings of the presiding officers, just like in the court, do set a precedence which can then be relied and be fallen back onto. So that is what enables us to say that we have been enabled by the laws and the rules to run the internal matter. The Constitution also is very clear. It sets out the separation of powers. And that is why the Parliament and its precinct is squarely under the authority of the presiding officers. I hope I have you, ma'am.
I want to deal with the issues raised by Lulama in relation to our arrangements for our guests in the gallery and who is there and on what basis is it decided. It's a convention that was started in the period of the leadership of both Madiba and Speaker Frini Jinwala. But we all out to share the gallery. I mean, we could have gone as a practice. We could have gone for a view that says every member of Parliament must bring a spouse. So most of those seats were taken up just on that. Zarina, how many seats do we have in the gallery? We have 721 seats in the gallery. We have 490 members when you also include the National Council of Provinces. So you could take up most of the seats that way. But as a new an open democracy, and a democracy that was saying this parliament is the parliament of the people. It can't just be for us and our families. So yes, political parties must be given some seats, but we never have every member of parliament to invite a partner. So proportionate political parties are also given tickets, but it's never enough for each and every member across the political parties to have tickets to bring a spouse or a partner. We then invite the judiciary, they are here. The executive is here. In fact, ministers have their partners in the gallery. We then invite the Chapter 9 institutions. We invite, and the staff allow Zarina to actually talk more because she's the person that is heading the task team that has been helping us to prepare for the State of the Nation address. And they report to us regularly, and we look at the detail of the decisions they make every year in terms of Well, previously, Parliament invited this group, and this is the particular structure that had been invited last year, and therefore was suggesting this year we invite somebody else, so that you try and you give an opportunity to also sit in the gallery and be part of this important occasion. We, as presiding officers, are also allowed, the chairperson and the speaker are allowed 10 tickets, so we can invite family or whoever we feel we would like to invite. The deputies are allowed 5 tickets each, and then the rest are given to political parties, as I say. The largest political party gets 150-something tickets. 154, and then proportionately, every party has a certain number of tickets. But as I say, it's never possible to accommodate all members of parliament, so we also have a guest. But Zarina, can you add to what I've answered?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think what is important to note is the diplomatic corps is also invited. And in the rotational categories, there are 5 different rotational categories with different people involved in that. That gets presented to the presiding officers on a yearly basis, and they decide on the rotational categories. So we never have the same categories and the same people coming in the same category. And I think you've covered the whole gallery now, ma'am. Thank you.
No, they want us to add to the rules as they apply to SONA. This is in the order of business of Parliament. The State of the Nation address, the President invites the 3 arms of the state and requests Parliament to convene that occasion to be able to address the nation, and then subsequently his debated. So that's the general practice. So we know that rules for questions are made according to each of the houses for questions. So those rules for questions do not apply here. And in any case, points of order ought to be about, if they are to arise, they are about procedure and or privilege. They are things, they can't be about any other thing else, even if they were to arise theoretically. And so what will happen on that day, as it has already been responded to, we do not expect members to ask questions. They have been in their induction, frequently in the practices that occurred about what happens at the SONA. So that is not what we expect. We hope that that will be how things will turn out. And if it doesn't, the Speaker has authority to maintain order in the. This is the authority of the Speaker and the Chairperson in this instance, because both of them are presiding over the joint sitting. So they have authority to ensure that we have order in the conduct of its business. So we can't speculate on what's going to happen on that day, at least from where we are sitting. We go ahead with the assumption that things will go according to how they have happened in the past. And should any other situation arise, it will be dealt with in the way Parliament is able to do, given its authority, the authority of the presiding officers. That we expect them to exercise the responsibility they have for that order in the House.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. So do we have the final round of questions?
Sorry, my question was, can you just give us a yes or no, please, on whether public order policemen will be deployed in and around the National Assembly chamber on that day. Thank you.
The speaker says that we must answer that. Zelda, sorry, Zarina. Why do we giving you so much job here? Especially because the responsibility for security is that of the security cluster. They are responsible for that. The speaker and the presiding officers are responsible for policies, and if the necessity arises, whether they'll be in or out, that's their business, quite frankly. But I don't know whether you want to add to that.
Zelda.
Zelda?
Thanks.
Just a quick one before Zelda comes.
For Zelda, okay.
You know, I find that question quite interesting, Speaker. In that as we speak, as we are seated here, at the entrance of Parliament, there's police. So if the question becomes whether if they will be allowed to be in the precinct of Parliament during the State of the Nation address, they are already here. No, the question is precinct. No. Not unless you explain to us exactly what is public order policing in Parliament. In any case, what will they be doing in the chamber?
Well, what were they doing in the chamber on the 27th of August? But the public order policemen are the ones who in charge of riot control, right? I know there's a whole semantic issue, but they're known as public order policing. They're distinguished by their badges. To be and are asked not in the precinct, but in and around the chamber on that day. Thank you.
Zelda?
Thanks. I think the question has been answered in part, Chair, but maybe to add to that, when it comes to police deployment, it is the police who decide, depending on the situation, operationally, or what might be determined by unfolding situations. So we can't predetermine, neither is it our position to comment on the police would deploy, who they would, how they would deploy. And maybe in addition to the comment, just to confirm that the police deployment is a prerogative of the police operationally, and also that the State of the Nation address is a joint occasion, it's occasion of the state, and all the security arrangements are commensurate with the nature of that event. So if there are any questions, I think we could probably anticipate how many, if, etc. Those are operational decisions and decided by the executive, by the police.
Okay, thank you very much. Final round of questions now. Charles, Yan, and the final question will come from Gay Davis. Thank you.
Charles Duplessis from Media 24. Given what we've just been told, and the chair of the NCOP has told us that Parliament and its precincts are squarely under the authority of the presiding officers, if the public order police are deployed here, whose authority are they under?
Chair, to up on that and to get back to the Powers and Privileges Act, my understanding is, and I'm no lawyer, as you know, but my understanding is that that sort of decision is taken by the Speaker or the person designated by the Speaker, if I'm quoting correctly. Who is designated by the Speaker? Is Mrs. Holtzman designated? Is the police as some sort of amorphous body designated? You said right at the beginning, and that's very respected, that the rules of Parliament and the Powers and Privileges Act will be followed and the Constitution. Of course, otherwise you'll be illegal. If we go back to Powers and Privileges Act, I understand it wrongly.
Thanks. Witness News. It follows the questions by my two colleagues. Powers and Privileges Act, as I understand it, spells out that the police can enter without the authority of the Speaker when life or limb is at risk. And there is an imminent danger of somebody being hurt or worse. What we seem to be hearing from you is that that's not really going to be a consideration. It's simply handed over to the police, to the security cluster to decide. What we are hearing is be a situation where, I'm going to put this, that Mr. Malema stands up, asks questions, refuses to obey an order to sit down, to desist, will then have to be removed from the chamber, shall we say, resists, and there needs some degree of intervention in order to take him out and to restore order to the House. That's the hypothesis. I'm not saying that that's necessarily going to happen. In that event, has the authority to summon whatever force is required, because there's no danger to life or limb. So we don't see that the police can then make an independent decision of your authority, Speaker, in terms of the act to come in. This is the issue that we have been trying to understand. I hope that helps. Thanks.
Thank you. That was the final question. The presiding officers will now respond to the question.
As we the State of the Nation Address is a special annual event where the state is hosted by Parliament. The whole state is hosted by Parliament. Annually, ahead of this event, the three arms at the right level, the organs, the relevant organs would come together in relevant structures and sit and plan and prepare for the State of the Nation Address, including the city. You know, there's a whole network of structures that start to work together, to a point where I, sitting here, and the chairperson sitting here, cannot possibly have all of the detail and, you know, the range of and at which levels they happen. But in keeping with the law and the Constitution, the relevant structures start to interact, and they start to be convened to prepare, and as Zelda keeps saying, some of them are at level. And therefore, they are not issues that, you know, the presiding officers in detail would be able to say, this is what happens in this minute. However, if you are talking about the House itself, the two of us would be presiding. Because the two of us are presiding, that is a situation, therefore, where the actors, the role players, are much fewer than a situation where there's a whole lot out there that are expected to intervene from minute to minute. But again, sitting here, we cannot possibly sit and speculate about what's going to happen. We really just not be speculating. We hear the stories. We hear the stories and we hear whatever you are expecting. You know it or you don't know it or you expect it, but we don't, because really it's not in the business of speculating. At the point at which anything happens, we will deal with it as it unfolds. We will have to come to terms with it as it happens. And we will help have to apply the rules, the conventions, the practices, the protocols. We'll have to apply everything that a part of the parliamentary culture.
Thank you very much to the presiding. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. The press conference is adjourned.